You're listening to Childcare Sights and Sounds, presented by Dani Christine Inc., a podcast made for childcare providers by childcare providers. Hey everyone! Welcome back to Childcare Sights and Sounds. I am Dani.
I'm Gigi.
And we're back in person.
Yes.
We tried this last week.
It
Didn't work. Maybe I'll insert some clips from last week.
So
that
you
was
can
funny.
see the difference. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. But we had food coming. My daughter was here. She was getting attacked by bees.
Yes. There was a lot happening in this spot last week.
Yeah.
Things are more calm now. It was raining earlier. We're sitting in a cloudy backyard, but it feels nice.
Yes.
And it also feels nice because we're talking about expansion.
Woohoo!
So that's an exciting topic to discuss. And honestly, I'm kind of cringing because we're talking about it. I still think prematurely.
Oh my goodness. Here we go. What do you think is gonna happen?
You never know what could happen.
Well, I'm gonna dwell in the midst of the hype of it all. And then if I hit rock bottom, I have you there to pick me up.
Yeah. So we have, for the past, I can't even say a couple weeks or months. It's honestly been like over a year that we've been talking about expansion. For those of you who don't know, if this is the first episode you're listening to or watching, I own a childcare business. Gigi is our operations manager of that childcare business. It is a daycare center in New York, and we've been open for about a little over 3 years. And we've been trying to expand into a second location for the past, honestly, year and a half. So we finally found a good opportunity that seems like it is meant for us. And today is the day that we're supposed to receive the lease for it. So literally, we're hours away from that meeting. And that's why I'm saying it's a little premature. I usually like to talk about things after they've already happened, like, oh, keys are in our hand, sign is on the door, it's official. But this feels like it is for sure going to happen.
Yes. And I say let's toast.
Oh, I was getting ready to put it down.
Let's toast to second location and many more locations to come.
Yes.
Nice. She doesn't like dog. Here we go. I was gonna say she's not being dramatic, but I take that back.
Oh gosh. First of all,
she doesn't like dog. We're drinking dog, which I like.
I thought it was like when she was like, "Oh, we should get a drink." I'm like, "It's 9 a.m." It for some reason it feels so early to me.
It's gloomy.
Yeah, it's because the sun hasn't like fully come out today because it's been raining and it's supposed to rain. I think honestly, I think it's supposed to rain all week.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Even if it was 9 a.m.,
it's not 9 a.m. though.
It
is 12:47 at this time.
Okay, so
how do you feel?
Oh my goodness. We were looking at another place. I got excited. It didn't happen. I think we're looking at another place.
You're gonna keep
got excited. Didn't happen. And it came to the point where she was like, I don't want to tell you. I don't want to disappoint you, because she herself had been there and know exactly how I'm feeling. And I told her, I was like, okay, this time around, I'll take it with a grain of salt. I still want to be in the loop. I still want to know. And I think the last episode we attempted to be out here, you attempted to tell me.
Oh, yeah.
The last place didn't happen.
This is episode 9, by the way. Welcome to episode 9. Episode 8 was her performance appraisal. We did her performance appraisal like crazy people on the internet for everybody to hear. So you can check out episode 8 for that. But in that episode, when we were together, I was planning to give her an update on the property that we were interested in, um, while we were recording the podcast. But so much was going
Yeah.
on that we just stopped filming. And um,
She knew what reaction she was gonna get.
yeah, I wanted a funny reaction. Well, that's so mean. It wouldn't have been funny.
I think you wanting a natural
Yes.
reaction.
Yeah.
Um, and she knew I would be disappointed, so I told her, this time.
Don't make me sound evil.
No, you're
I
not
just said it
evil.
would be funny, and you're like, I knew.
You knew
She
I'd be
knew I'd be
disappointed, but I'll
disappointed.
be like dramatic disappointed. Like, oh, what is wrong with this person? Doesn't this person realize he needs us? This is gonna, we're the one that could better utilize his property than anybody else. But it's just me being dramatic. But as she was telling me, if it's meant to be for us, it will be for us, and it will happen. And look, it happened,
Right.
and it happened in a great location where there's not much we really need to do, which will make the process of opening very short, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully, at least.
Well, yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
God willing. It's going to be that way.
Yes.
Because we say so.
Absolutely.
Um, but so, yeah, just to dive a little deeper into what we were looking at before and the reason why now I think it's such a great time to expand if you're able to do so. Um, the property that we were looking at before was, it's so hard to describe our location because the surrounding areas are so drastically different. So our current location is in Long Island. It's in Nassau County, and it's in a town or district or neighborhood. I
Mm-hmm.
can I never know what to call, like, because in New York City it's boroughs, like it's
Yes.
Queens, that is a
I would say
borough.
town because like there's town of
Yeah,
Hempstead, there's
but
town of Uniondale, there's those are the
there's
different
no,
towns.
it's not town of
No.
Uniondale. Uniondale is in the town of Hempstead.
Oh wow.
So town of Hempstead encompasses many different neighborhoods,
Within.
including like Valley Stream,
Oh.
Alma, like I really don't know. But
How to
then
break it
there's
down?
Hempstead, which is different than the
The
town
town
of
of
Hempstead.
Hempstead. Yes.
I don't know. This is a conversation for my dad, I guess. But
Let's
a
say
neighborhood.
neighborhood. Jesus, we're too much alike.
The neighborhood that we're in is in such a um, low income area that many of our families are um, using social services for, like food stamps,
Yes. Government
housing,
assistance.
yeah,
Yeah.
government assistance, childcare subsidies. So the majority of our income comes from the county's subsidy for childcare. Now the location that we're going to be in, even though it's only 3 miles away, the median household income level is drastically different.
Yes.
Hold on, actually, I let me see if I can pull it up. I think I can.
With that being said, it's crazy how just like what less than 10 minutes away, the
Yeah, less than
change,
10 minutes
the
away.
how the dynamics of the neighborhood is. Um, so this would be a whole different
Demographic.
and families and needs and wants that we're going to have to understand.
Right.
You know,
So that is something that is will
challenge.
may be a challenge for us. Not to say that it's impossible or hard or whatever. Like, we're gonna figure it out and it's gonna be successful. But it's just, it poses a different challenge.
Yes.
But the place that we were considering before was in a similar
Very.
demographic. It was also less than 10 minutes
Mhm.
away, but the property itself, it was for sale. For one, that was a big difference. We were trying to purchase the property, and secondly, it was basically the same size, if not a little bit
Bigger
bigger
because of the
than our
landscape.
current
Yeah.
location. And it was a center that was it was a building that was previously a childcare center, that was closed down years ago, and the property needed renovation. So it would have been a large sum of money to purchase the property, a large sum of money to renovate it, and then it needed to be licensed and filled up. And I think it was either some rooms were empty, or if they weren't, all of that stuff needed to be thrown out and
Yes.
replaced anyway.
Yeah,
So
some of
there
them were
was
being used as storage.
right. So there was a lot of money that would have needed to be put into that location. But honestly, I felt I had been, this specific location I had been looking at for over a year, almost 2 years, because it was when I used to drive the van. That's
Uh-huh.
how far back it went before I had any help. I
Uh-huh.
used to drive the van to drop kids off for transportation. And I remember passing it and seeing this, like, it had the old daycare sign
Uh-huh.
on it,
Uh-huh.
um and but it looked abandoned.
Okay.
So I was wondering, like, what's going on in this building? Why is it just a vacant daycare center? So I called the number that was on there, and that's how we found out that it was connected to the daycare that was down the street.
Yeah.
um so there was a daycare down the street that owned both properties and was kind of just sitting on that one, because I guess the mortgage was paid off and they weren't using it, whatever. Um, Long story short, it didn't work out because the terms of the sale that the owner was asking for, it it wasn't what we could do. Um, and it just honestly just wasn't meant for us, no matter
Yeah.
how long I had been looking at it.
Yeah.
Originally, I contacted the owner of that property to rent it from him, and he turned me away and said that, well, no,
Yeah.
he showed it to us a little over a year ago, then
Then said no.
then said no,
Yeah.
then called us back to try to sell us the other daycare that he had down the street. We didn't want that because there was too much going on
Yeah.
with that property. Then a few months later, he had a for sale sign in the window, and that's how we found it just recently, a couple months ago. Um, so that didn't work out, and it didn't work out for the best, to be honest, because then we stumbled across the property that we're about to acquire now. And the way that we did that, this is a ooh, that can be in the secret sound.
What?
How we went about
Yes, I was gonna
attracting.
bring it up, but I was waiting
Yeah,
for you to finish. That should be secret
that's
sound
gonna be in the secret
because I
sound.
was shocked when you told me how.
He reached
Yeah,
out.
I was like,
Yeah,
I'm like, oh my goodness, then because I remember you were holding back on doing that,
yeah.
and then look, we listened to a call. It was a call, a webinar with our
No.
we
What we'll get all into it.
I
In
know
the
something gave you the push because we talked about it as soon as the call was webinar was finished. You was like, I'm going to do it right now, and I'm gonna mail them out.
You're giving it away.
Am I sorry? Okay, let's move on. Long story short, I am ecstatic. I'm about to be an operations manager of two locations, and just if you looked at our my appraisal performance, I was saying how I wanted to do a little bit more, push myself a little bit more. And boy, she said, I'm about to give you what you asked for. So I'm excited and scared at the same time, but I'm ready for a challenge. Challenges make you grow and learn more about yourself and kind of helps you wake up a little bit.
Yeah. So, just to go back to what I was saying before about the median household income, um, in the area that we're
Oh
currently
my
in,
God, is that the difference? I'm sorry.
yeah,
she googled the difference and I saw the number drop drastically. That is crazy.
yeah, this is honestly better than I expected, though, for where we are.
Yeah.
The where we currently are with our
What's the
first
difference?
location, the median household income is 78,000, and the for the area that we're expanding into, it's 147,000. This is just as on the first page of Google.
70,000, a little over $70,000 difference.
Right. And to be honest, I can see like the households in our area struggling more because they might have more
Of
kids
course.
and more people living in the house and like
A
you
little bit
know
less of income, meaning there's only one person working in the
yeah,
house.
there's just it's a completely different community, so that's something that we're going to have to take into consideration, market to,
To
and
market to a whole different type of needs. I
yeah,
think
to
this is
attract
where
different.
our curriculum, our staff
Hmm.
trainings, our environment that we create, our culture. This is going to be the time where it needs to be marketed um, the right way, as opposed to before, where our current location is. It was just okay. I have to work. I have childcare assistants. Here you go. You know,
Yeah,
it's a bit different this time,
yeah, I agree. Um,
which I know we could do because we're already exceeding those in our first center. So this is going to be a piece of cake.
absolutely. Um, so yeah, now for the difference though with this property that we're going to be expanding into, this one versus the one that was not meant for us, is that this one is actually smaller than our current
It
location.
is.
In our current location, we're licensed for, we can have anywhere between like 70 and 80 kids on our license, depending on how we set up our classrooms. I don't know if you noticed, our license capacity went from I think 76 to
I was
79
going to say it went up a little
recently
bit.
because we changed the toddler room
Yes.
to a preschool room.
Yes.
So we got more kids. So we can have anywhere between like 70 and 80 kids depending on the placement of our classrooms.
And that's
In
because our classrooms, we could do multi, like, multi-user. Like our classrooms can be
right.
done for like after school at a certain time of the
But
day.
also really the number changes because in the toddler classroom, the green room,
Mm-hmm.
um when it was a toddler room, it could only be 9 because of the minimum square footage requirements. But when we changed it to preschool, those requirements got smaller, so
Yeah.
there was more space in the room for more kids.
Yeah.
So that's why the number changed. um in the location we're expanding into, it is a slightly smaller property, and I think the maximum that we can get in there is around 45 kids, depending on how many depend the same situation depending on how we set up the
Yes.
classrooms. Their infant room was huge,
Absolutely.
and
They
if we
had
changed it from infants to
preschool.
preschool, or
I Before that, I would kind of research what
yeah,
the
to
need
see
for
what's
their, yeah,
needed.
because I in the past we have made the mistake of not listening to the demand
Hmm.
of what parents needed at the time, and we switched it up. I want to say not too late, but we just switched up to the point where we were still able to
It
enroll
was
some.
too late. It was not that it was too late, but we left a lot of
Lost some
money
money without,
on the
yeah,
table
yeah. So
because
I think this time around we will market and see what the need is in that area, if it's infants or if it's preschool.
right. Um, and on top of that, we're faced with just a general challenge across the board that
Because of
everybody's
COVID.
faced
Yeah,
with because of coronavirus and schools reopening plans.
yeah,
Um, and how that's going to affect us as a child care program. Um,
yeah. It's funny. I was just having a conversation with my Uber driver this morning, because I
what
still
are you
take.
referring to?
So I
I'm just
let my
kidding.
daughter sleep in a little bit today. Usually I put her in the bus, but I let her sleep in a little bit. Because for those of you who know, she attends with me at our center, and she basically work my hours. So I let her sleep in a little bit today. So we took an Uber, and the Uber driver was like, "You're sending your kids to school?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm actually sending my kid to my school. I work here." And he was like, "Really?" He was like, he didn't know that kids were going back to school, and he was like, what are you guys doing? What's going on?" I'm like, "Well, honestly, we've never been closed, thankfully. I know what we're doing and the procedures we're taking to ensure that we're stopping the spread of anything, whether it could be coronavirus or the cold. And I told him a few things we are doing, like change the shoes and the mask. And he was like, "You need to go tell the school district what you guys are doing, so that way, they'll be on the same page." I was like, "Yeah, unfortunately, we don't even know what they're doing, and it's kind of putting us at a standstill for our school age kids." But we're hoping that we hear something soon enough and we could
Yeah.
get the ball
I
rolling on our
literally
end.
just checked the page, the school district's website, because they're supposed to post today what their reopening plan is. But our school district is little slow.
That's the nice way of
literally
saying it.
literally slow,
Yeah,
not
because
like, I'm not trying to be funny, like they're slow to put out info. That is what I mean.
and we're not trying to insult anybody, but it's just the sense of urgency that we would have. We just expect them to have it, and that's that goes to say expectations for for some are different, but other districts have their
Plans up.
results up already.
Yeah.
Which gave us an idea of which direction we're going in, but we just had the same expectations for our district.
Right. I also want to, I should have apologized for this in the beginning, but this,
The generator.
yes, we're in my dad's backyard right now, literally underneath his generator. So if you, I'm sure you're
What does
hearing
he
it.
have a generator?
I actually, maybe it's not the generator, maybe it's an AC.
You have central AC?
Yeah.
It's the AC.
Yeah.
I was gonna say a whole generator is smart, but when they're with
Yeah,
the
it's just the air conditioning.
Okay.
So yeah, the second location is a little bit smaller, um, but I don't think that is there's still an opportunity to make a decent amount of money. Really, the most money that you spend in this business is on your staffing.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you don't have that many kids, you don't need that many staff. I believe we'll probably only need about 10 people.
Really, 10? I was gonna say like 8.
He said 8, but he was explaining that he had, and he is the owner, the owner of the program that was there prior. Said that he had about 8 employees. He only needed about 8 employees when it was full. But on the other hand, he said he's never been full.
Oh, okay.
He said he only had like 30 kids.
We are going to be full,
right?
And I guess 10 will make more sense in case
floaters lunch.
Yes, some case somebody calls out. We don't want to be scramming and have administrative going into the classroom.
And there will not be 3 administrators there.
I don't know what you're telling me.
I'm just saying.
At least 2.
No.
What if one person calls out? What if there's an emergency? Is there going to be an acting director?
There should be a lead teacher
as an acting director.
Honestly, according to New York State regulations,
she loves to put out the regulations.
If you have less than 40, I think it's less than 45 kids.
I know where you're going. I read this that a teacher could be
a lead teacher. Yes. Could be the director.
Yes,
that's what regulations say. I wouldn't recommend it unless your program is really small, maybe like 20 kids or less. I wouldn't recommend that. But
I wouldn't be comfortable either.
Right, but if the director had to be out for any reason, I don't think we would necessarily need to have a whole separate assistant director. Mm-hmm. We could just have a lead teacher who is like in training for administration when we open center number 3,
or know that they have 2 roles from time, because sometimes maybe in the morning time, maybe the director time. I used
to work at a center where anytime our boss left, she wouldn't move anybody, but she would give them the phone and say, I'm going outside, I'm leaving. So she like listen for the door, and she would leave the door open, just like we do. If someone's stepping out the office, not the front door, but like the classroom door. Yes. She'd leave the classroom door open, and she had a phone that was not it was a cordless landline phone. She would give it to the teacher that she trusted the most, and would say that she's stepping out for a few.
I would want a teacher who understands both roles,
right?
Who understand the regulations, because we do know inspectors like to pop up. knows to call the director and let it be known that someone from OCFS popped up, and then still be able to answer questions until the director arrives. So someone who has like a dual type of
Right.
role.
Because also in that same sense, she definitely didn't prepare anybody for
Regular,
that
yeah,
that kind of
inspection.
thing. Because one time she was out and an inspector came and literally nobody spoke to her. I think one of the teachers that happened to be walking in the hallway saw that someone was at the door, let her in, didn't say anything, and she just started walking around the building by herself.
Wow.
Um,
Really surprised they're still open. She could bleep that out. Go ahead. But
just
I didn't
no
say a
comment.
name. I didn't say anything.
No
I get
comment.
really being in this field now. I don't understand why some people do the things that they're doing sometimes.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. To each his own. Is that how you say
Yeah.
it?
Uh,
Okay. So, oh my goodness, when is the sign going up? I want her to do like a whole cut and
we have
ribbon
to
thing.
sign the
Signage.
lease first
Yes, yes,
before
yes.
putting a sign on the
That's
building.
gonna happen. I'm ready to sweep, dust. I'm ready for it
The
all.
beautiful thing is that there was no dust. Like it was just so that we didn't even finish explaining the difference between the two properties.
Oh yeah, the first one was just empty.
The first one
The
was
walls,
definitely dusty, empty,
yeah.
kind of dirty, but it was still a good opportunity, and it was still a good opportunity that we definitely could have made successful. We already picked children up from that neighborhood. We were
Yes.
familiar with the demographic. It was a great opportunity. It just didn't work out for us. But this location, like we said, is smaller, and it also has it already it the program that was in it is currently closed because of COVID. Like they've been closed for months, but the owner is trying to sell because he didn't want to be in the business anymore. Um, he thought that dealing with licensing was too much, and managing employees, I don't know, he didn't want to be in the business anymore. But they were recently licensed, so they I think around the same time that we were, so all of their stuff is brand new. Like we're coming in and taking over their stuff that is brand new.
Yeah.
And
He
it's
just
just
didn't know how to keep up with licensing
the
and
regulations
regulations.
policy, like he thought that he literally said to me that in order to be successful in this business you have to be an owner that's on site.
Yeah.
We know that's not true.
And then on top of that, which was a red flag, he claims he didn't like people telling him what to do and where to place the kids and who to place kids.
Yeah, I don't think that's like a red flag. Like I just
Well,
think that he said it wasn't his passion.
That was gonna say it's a
And
red flag. Clearly, you got into a field that you didn't research or understand what you're about to get yourself into.
Well, no, he started it as a different business. I don't know if you. I don't want to get too much into it, but the building was there because it was a different business. And
Oh,
then
and
he said somebody approached
Yes,
him
yes, yes, yes.
to
Got
somebody
you, got you.
approached him to open a daycare. He leased it to them. They ended up like not paying their rent. It was not a good deal for him. So
He
they
eventually ended
left,
up with
and
it on
then
his
he
lap. Yeah.
now has a building that's a daycare, so he decided to run it, and it was just too much for him. So here we are to save the day.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
I am so excited.
Oh my god, this is so long overdue. It's such a
It is really
blessing.
long overdue, which means that in the next 6 months we got to open center number 3.
I was thinking, wouldn't it be crazy as soon as we sign the lease for this, within a couple of weeks, something falls in our lap?
It is.
I think Hempstead is going to call us.
Um, well, we don't have money for that no more. We wouldn't. we wouldn't. We wouldn't have the.
Because the way he ended it is almost like you guys will be my next option if this doesn't work.
I'm sure he's gonna call. Maybe
Yeah.
not within the next couple of weeks, but like
I agree.
just the way that he had done business. Camera died. we stopped and paused for a few minutes. But we were talking about opening, like being able to easily walk into this second location and still be able to think about expanding beyond that. I don't really have a number of like how many people I have asked me before, like how many centers do you want to open? I really don't know. I love the experience of opening centers, and yeah, it's weird. I don't mind going through the licensing process and filling out paperwork.
Some
And
people are like, "Is she kidding me?"
I've been in like Facebook groups. Like just this morning, I'm in a Facebook group of daycare providers of within the state, and they were complaining about like someone wanted to know if they how something about their husband. It was a home daycare, and how they can get their husband on payroll or something. And she was like, do I have to fill out the paperwork like to add him on? And someone responded like, yeah, you're gonna have to fill out all that paperwork. And in my head I'm like, are you talking about just the forms for a new hire? Like those few pages bring some people so much anxiety that they wouldn't even add another staff member or person. Like it's not that it's not hard. And I'm not saying that I think other people think are unable or think it's too hard. I think that some people's mindsets is just like, I don't want to do anything extra.
Some people have the let's cut corners mindset.
Right. Um
In this field, cut corners
Yeah.
definitely backfire to
Real
the point
quick.
where it would have just made sense to do things the right way.
Right. Um yeah. So I really love the process of like envisioning like the potential of a location and thinking about like filling it up. um I really love the startup process. Yeah. So because of that, I really can't imagine what my limit is, and I don't think that I necessarily have a limit. I don't know. That's how I feel right now. Maybe in 10 years it'll be different, but I started my first childcare business in my home 6 years ago as of next month.
Did you ever think that starting it in home, like that's where it would have stopped for you, or you always knew you wanted a center?
I always knew I wanted a center even before I did in home. It was actually one of my friends um who owned a she didn't she as one of my friends that I worked with, um that I was, telling her about how I wanted to open a daycare one day. She was telling me how she was about to get out of here and open a home daycare, and she gave me that idea. Like I didn't even know home daycares was a thing back then. So she told me about home daycares, and then after looking into it more and comparing how hard it would be to open a center versus a home daycare and the money that would have been needed to go into it, it kind of just the opportunity to open a home daycare kind of just fell into place with me also needing to have a place to live. This was right before my senior year of college. So yeah, I don't know. The opportunities just make their way. I just take certain opportunities. But the center definitely came faster than I could have imagined. That was not. It's not like it wasn't in my plan. I just didn't have a set plan. I will say that I think that I manifested it because I used to in my home daycare. It was a 3 level house. It was 2 floors and it had a basement. And my little office was in the dungeon of the basement that there was. I had a desk set up down there, and so did our administrative assistant. Yes, I put a little table down there for her.
Definitely, she told me that, especially you do her parent teacher one-on-ones and stuff. catch the conference.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one day, like, I would often sit at that desk.
But sorry to cut you off. You know, it's so crazy. I would pick her to start off the filing the online account because she's so perfect at that. She would be our hop around, train whoever's going to be the administrator, assistant, or administrator in general for each and every location.
Oh,
Isn't that a? You see why I would say that?
Yeah, of course. She's very efficient
but
and pays attention to detail. But yeah, I would sit at that desk and I would write down like goals for myself. I remember one year, I think it had to have been 2015. I think in December 2015, I wrote down, I remember this, I wrote down a list of like 10 things that I wanted to do for 2016. And I put it up on the wall in front of my desk. There was no, like, barely any windows down there. I was facing a wall. And one of the things, I remember one of the things on the list was like lose 10 pounds. That didn't happen. And I wish I was the weight that I was back then. Now.
Isn't it crazy? You think you were so big back then and you're looking like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, that's kind of scary because now I'm wondering what it's going to look like 5 years from now. Anyway, so it was like something about weight. I think something about my eating habits. Also, like, it was 10 things, but I remember one of them was open. So my home daycare program was called Big Steps. So I put open big steps too. Okay. And I didn't know what that meant or how that was going to happen. I just put open big steps too. Literally had no plan. But then a few months later, well, not a few, it was like 10 months later, 9-10 months later, as it goes in my video that I put out on my YouTube channel about how I started my childcare business at 20 years old. Like I explained in that video, toward the end of 2016, one of my dad's friends contacted me to ask if I'd be interested in partnering with him to open a center. It was a much longer conversation than that, and there was a time a few years before where I had talked to him about my wanting to open a center, and like we went to go look at a center together, and I just honestly didn't in that moment realize what was going on, that like, oh, he was possibly thinking about investing, or yeah. I really honestly I didn't even realize, like, why are we going to see this? I don't have any money to pay for anything. I was a sophomore in college at that time, I think. So that didn't end up working out at that point, but a few years later, it did. So again, same thing. Opportunity just presented itself, and I opened a center quickly. Now it's all that I can think about. Like, we didn't even sign the lease on center number 2 yet, 3. And I'm already like, okay, no. Where's center number 3 gonna come from?
No, I definitely. It's you motivate yourself. You see what accomplishing one goal could do, and I think it just puts that battery in your back to continue that same momentum. So no, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. At all. Yeah. It is exciting and gives me something to look forward to. I think when I don't have something to look forward to, it can get kind of like boring.
So I'm bored. Let me open a 4th center.
When I was bored,
let's open a 5th center.
When I was bored, before the opportunity came for me to open the center, partnering with my dad's friend, I went to grad school because I was
getting
bored.
ready to say, yes, she went and got her master's because she was bored. I'm sure a lot of people out there was like, yeah, no, it wasn't bored enough. I just felt like I had to get
And
it.
Maybe bored is the wrong word. Like, I just feel like I always need a challenge or something, a project. Mm-hmm. I always need a project to be working on. Yeah. Otherwise, I can kind of feel like
you're not busy.
Lost and lonely.
Yeah. You come off as someone that needs to wake up and their day has is planned and has expectations and outcome. Um, always got to keep yourself busy.
Yeah. Well, we already know about how I wake up and look at my calendar.
She calendar blocks when she's gonna take a shower.
Don't.
That's all I'm gonna
No,
say.
I don't.
Yes, she does.
No, I don't.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Sometimes I do if the day is busy. Sometimes.
Yeah. I don't know when she calendar blocks to eat. She doesn't eat.
Sometimes I calendar block it if the day is busy. If I'll do it if it's interrupting what I'm like. Never mind.
She's just one of those people. I don't know if there's a diagnosis for it. I'm not trying to. What is it? Do you know
efficient, productive,
you know those people whose hands always gotta move?
successful? That's the diagnosis.
That's her. She's gotta stay busy.
Wow.
But it's okay. We're getting ready to get on a path that would definitely gonna keep us busy.
Mm-hmm.
Hiring, marketing, managing, enrolling, and centers. It's gonna get really busy. And then on top of that, we have COVID to deal with. So I'm sure our strategies are gonna be changing here and there.
Yeah. We have 1 minute left with this camera, and I'm tired of fussing with it. So we should jump into the secret sound.
Yes.
And in the secret sound, I'm going to, if you're not sure what the secret sound is, it is for audio only listeners. So if you're watching this on YouTube, there is a podcast available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, different area. You could go to childcaresites.com/podcast and the our podcast will come up. And you can listen to the rest of this episode audio only without the video. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment down below. Let us know what your expansion plans are, or if you have any questions for us that we can maybe cover in a separate episode. Hit the like button and share with your friends. Bye.
Bye.